Hey, and welcome back to the Talos Principle. Last time we finished Area 2 in the cathedral over here. Today we're going to start with Area 3. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of reading again, so let's get ready for that. Because always we have to make progress in the land of faith. Because otherwise, you know, what are you even doing? Ooh, snow. Ooh, an audio recording, even better. And bridges? Oh, I so hate bridges. It's still kind of neat. I still like the whole theming, right? Like, I guess the whole medieval world here is fascinating. Where's that? Is this part of a puzzle? Can I just jump into a puzzle like? Wait a second. I can just make that jump. I mean, I'm stuck now, but I could open it from that side if I need something later on. I know this was like an important check, but apparently I can also kind of climb out, maybe? Like with a little bit of strategy. Because I feel like if I jump down here, yeah, I'm just gonna get teleported back. I might be kind of stuck. Yeah, wait, I can use the cube. Maybe that cube is high enough? No? Maybe if I bring the cube. You know what? I should probably go for regular gameplay first before I do, you know, whatever I'm doing right now. That would be great, wouldn't it? I mean, you can always reset the level, but you know, now I'm so far down here already. Kind of have to experiment when I have the chance. My shadow's weird. I'm still holding the box as my shadow. I just don't have it in my hands. Well, I'm kind of stuck here, like for real this time. What? Can I mean, I should be able to... No, I can't actually rewind because I'm not inside of a level yet. I think that's still a very interesting mechanic, to say the least. I actually still want to get this one. Because I want to see if I can... If I'm like on this side, I can probably climb out. No? Don't do this to the game. What a start to an episode. You know what, I'm gonna restart check for it. I had to try, okay, but it seems like I can just deactivate the barrier on the other side. Before I read, obviously we have to explore a little bit more, you know. You know, snow is actually kind of lovely. Like here in Germany where I live, we've had snow once. Like over a month ago, which would have been like in October, November, kind of. And there has been no snow inside since, and it's like, today's the 21st. I mean, to be fair, this is kind of where winter starts technically. So like normally you don't expect too much snow before, and it's just always funny that we tend to get like 1 or 2 days of snow weeks before, but then there's just like nothing until like January. But that's just kind of how the world is, right? In any case, we do have some spaces around here to explore. Just making sure that there's like nothing here, because we are technically looking for a star this time. Around. What's that noise? Did it just kick something down here? It sounded like something was like falling off and rolling down. Very lovely. Well, in any case, we have looked around a little bit. Wait a second. Am I seeing this right? Do I actually have to break out of levels here, or is this just like something properly connected to this one? Just because this level is so open, I kind of feel like we actually have to break it at some point. Okay, we have another puzzle here. I'm just looking around, so there should be a few. So we have like this big puzzle here, we have this one over there, we have one there, we have one here. So like I'm guessing 4 puzzles. I know there's like a repetition on those signs, which is why I'm always confused, but there should be like one main sign. Yeah, serpent, I get it. And 1 star. Like we are technically still missing a lot of stars when I think about it. Like there should be... How many stars do we even need? Do we need 30? I would have assumed that we need like 10 each, and we're like at 17, which isn't that much actually. I feel like I can't have missed too much yet, right? Maybe it's like 8 per, and then there would be like 24. That would be like a more reasonable number that I need. I do know that I'm missing like 2 in the first area, so that's also part of it, but overall I'm just feeling like I should have like most of them. Anyway, how about we listen to a recording first and then we can properly read.
Sometimes I worry that the answers I embrace are too simple. Can we ever truly fully understand the divide between our biology and our intellect? How much is nature, how much is nurture? If my intellectual capabilities and my knowledge were replicated in a machine, would that machine be me? Would it be human? And what would be more humbling to my ego? If the answer was yes, or if the answer was no? What if I'm making too many assumptions? But there's no time to worry about my ego now. There's work to be done.
Work sure was done. But I do agree, like we kind of talked about this when we talked about like clones briefly, right? Like if you had like someone else with like exactly your memories, would that still be you? In a way I would assume no, right? Like it would be a copy of you, but like it would be indistinguishable who the original would be in a way, right? Like assuming that we have like a very much a perfect copy, which we are probably never going to get. But it wouldn't be you in the sense that from that point forth, you basically would be split and you would have 2 different experiences. And you are obviously the sum of everything that happened before. And I'm gonna just put it in there, probably also parts of your body, right? Like the body is also part of you in a way. Where was I going with that? Just because that's like the next point, I just wanted to bring it up already. So like, if I had like a clone, like I press a button, it's like a perfect clone of me next to me, and like something happens, so we don't actually know who was like in the original position basically, then we would have like no idea who the original was. But at that point, we would be split still into like 2. Like our consciousness wouldn't be connected. I have to assume, right? And both of us would at that point make different experiences and suddenly, like instantly, be someone else. Would just be very similar. But it is an interesting question to then think about it. Like if you put everything into a machine, would that machine be you? Or like, let's say equal to you? Or not? Like that is actually an interesting question. If that would humble you more, or like which way would humble you more? But that's actually something I didn't really think about yet. And that's like, if this is true, right? Like you would just be your intellect basically. Like if you copy like all of the knowledge, the intellect that you've learned, there's like nothing really that makes you outside of like your environment, which is an interesting way to think about that, right? Like completely removing like the body part. But if that thing wouldn't be like human level or like whatever it is, then that means there would be like so much enrooted into like your biology, and what makes you would be basically, I guess, completely unrelated to your choices in your life, right? I feel like both of them are thoughts you wouldn't really enjoy having. But this is like something I've realized with games a lot. There are like a lot of questions. If I ask them, I like to not think, like, I have to think about them obviously for this video series, but I would also oftentimes prefer to not think about it, because I don't think there's like a satisfying answer either way, and I don't like having no satisfying answers. But yeah. Anyway, we have sheep again. It seems my refusal to argue semantics with the computer has angered it, and it refused to engage with me further. Elohim is pleased, which was not my intention. I mean, I kinda get it, right? Like, I have definitely angered the serpent in the machine with, like, my arguments, but then again, I feel like part of that is just, like, my... Did you just glitch? I was looking away and looked weird. It was just, like, my limited understanding of what I would actually type. This actually... I know I'm already complaining about, like, the fact that you have, like, limited words to use, but it's also, like, kind of the thing that... you only get like a few words of your answer instead of like the whole one, right? Like for example, the last time we talked, we had like the discussion about like whether lizards deserve like human rights, basically, if they're like super intelligent, and I said like no, and then it was like screw the lizards. So it's definitely a different tone, even though I thought it was funny at that moment. Anyway, Elohim is pleased because you've swallowed his claptrap. The voice of doubt is your only line of defense. I mean, kind of. Yeah, I feel like a voice of doubt is your only defense, and especially a situation like this where like information, there's like such an information disparity. I kind of talked about this also with Serpent before, that basically we are in a position of powerlessness while they are in a position of power. They understand more about the world and we have no way of confirming them or like what's going on. We can't really interact with a lot of stuff outside of the levels. That reminds me, and this is like a minor thing that I wanted to mention. So like 2 episodes or so ago, like I've already finished like the editing, and I noticed something. There was like this weird gray blob that I was looking at when I was jumping off the map, and I for some reason didn't realize that they are literally the shapes of the you know, the sigils, which makes sense because, you know, the words are the world and stuff. They make it up, so kind of makes sense that you find them. And still wanna kind of revisit that at some point, maybe towards the end, or when I have like a little bit of time I might just jump off the map again, you know, as you do, and look at it a little bit further, because I just kind of was stuck there for 5 minutes and didn't really do a lot. Anyway, is Serpent here? Ooh, no. We have 3 texts though. Post 437, third thesis, and Humblebrag. Okay. As always, let's just go through them. The open post. Like everyone else on the internet these last days, I just wanted to say bye, and thanks for reading my little blog for so many years. It's been fun, hasn't it? So many deep conversations, so much philosophy. Okay. It was mostly cat pictures and bad puns, but still, I kinda regret spending so much time at the computer. Not when I was doing stuff, just all the time sitting around, checking my emails a million times, reading pointless status updates by people I didn't like, but I don't regret the friends I made here or the laughs we had. You're all good people and I'm glad I got to know you. Have a nice end of the world. 12 comments? Wow, imagine having 12 whole comments in a world that basically has no humans left. I have to assume. Yeah. I guess a positive point, we had like the story about like family before, but I do think, you know, like made family basically, I always think is a bit more interesting just because you had like the choice, also like people you want to surround yourself with, and even something, I know this is like kind of parasocial in this case because it's like a blog as well, where there are like one-way relationships oftentimes, and this is just a blog, right? Like I'm guessing it's not even a huge blog, but like with like video creation stuff, like this is kind of similar for me, right? Like I'm sharing something about my journey, not just in this game, but like others as well. And sometimes I get to talk to people, whether it's on like a stream or like the YouTube, and it's like really interesting to hear other perspectives. I know like a YouTube comment section is always terrible for like long conversations, but like Twitch especially. And I guess I would agree, like there's like a lot of stuff I regret sometimes when sitting on a PC. Like sometimes you're like kind of in an analysis paralysis when you're like sitting in front of the PC not really knowing what to do, and it's like kind of just the routine. Like I come from like a feel like I had in the past some surgeries that left me bedridden for like total of like 2-ish years. Basically, and I spent like a lot of time on a PC, and then I went into a programming focused job, and then I went to university, and then COVID hit, obviously. Like a good chunk of my life has been spent like in front of the PC, and this is like kind of my normal state of being in a way. Don't get me wrong, I try to do other stuff every once in a while, but like this is kind of the default. Like if I don't have anything to do, I'm sitting here, whether it's reading, whether it's like communicating with people, it's like playing games. And to me, the act of either streaming or like video creation has always been like a lot more fun. This is like stuff I don't really regret, because it doesn't feel pointless in a way, which is really weird. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm not a massive channel where like a lot of people would be listening to what I'm yapping about, but it's still interesting that there's like the possibility of sharing my journey, right? So this gives us like a weird feeling of productivity, which I kind of like. I like feeling productive. And same with like all the perspectives that you kind of hear about, like all the people you meet indirectly, whether it's on like some other community channels basically, where you get to interact with very different perspectives that you would normally not hear about. And like, this is definitely the time I don't regret. What I do regret is doom scrolling though, let's be honest. Anyway, I feel like doom scrolling wasn't like as much of an issue back then, but probably still was. In a different way. Anyway, third thesis. I don't think that the previous text had like something deeper in there. This has ASCII. I'm gonna put it in where it comes up. I'm not gonna look it up here because like I tried last time and it just kind of destroys the flow of my thoughts. So I'm just gonna do that afterwards in post editing. Anyway, idea for a universal history with a cosmopolitan purpose. It remains strange that the earlier generations seem to perform their toilsome labor only for the sake of the latter ones, to construct for them a step from which they can raise higher the edifice that nature intended. And only the latest of all generations have the luck to inhabit the edifice that a long line of their ancestors unintentionally constructed. By Immanuel Kant. Okay. As puzzling as this may be, it is equally necessary if one assumes the following. A species of animal possesses reason and must develop this capacity to its perfection, being individually mortal but immortal in the species. Okay, and we kind of talked about the idea in like the Egyptian area, like there was one of the others we talked about like how you can live for the species, like the society, and you kind of have to accept that you are mortal and you are not going to see the end. And this is kind of going like the other direction where you are basically talking about like the last, right, like the last generation, basically the newest one that stands like on the shoulders of the giants that came before, that put in like all the work and never got to see it, and you are like reaping all the labor that has been put into the whole situation. That's like the first thing. Yeah, that definitely makes sense, right? Like I feel like there is definitely a part in there that you always hear, right? Like parents talking about how they wanna have like a better future for their children, and like if you continue this trend forward, you are going to have like the best future at some point. In theory, like I'm not saying that it works in practice, but that is generally something that is oftentimes intended. The next one is the other thing that we also talked about like some time ago. It's kind of a repetition of another idea that if... Okay, there are actually two things. First of all, like the ability to reason is like a ability, I wouldn't say like completely unique to humans, but definitely seems to be most, I guess, most expressed in us. That we have the ability to reason, and we should, I guess, improve that ability. And there's also like the idea that it should be done so over generations, right? We are immortal in the species, which is, I guess, a way to see that. I don't really agree with that as much. I do still agree with like the idea that you kind of become immortal if your actions have that much impact that it can be felt like over generations to come. In a way, like I wouldn't say you become immortal. In both cases, you don't. You just have like a very much extended, I guess, influence. But then this is also kind of the question whether life is just the influence, like the waves you make basically in other people's lives. In which case, yeah, it would be. I feel like for many, mortality is more connected to their own consciousness. But I don't really think that this adds a lot to what we have already talked about. I mean, except for like one sense, and this is that we raise it higher the edifice that nature intended, which... Okay, first of all, you have like the whole idea in there that there's like an intention, which, you know, I kind of disagree with. Like I still believe in the randomness more than any sort of intent. But it is interesting that we actively talk about like pushing, I guess, our reason, our labor, to a point that is, I guess, unnatural in a way. But now the question is it unnatural? are we not randomly okay, I should probably put it another way, right? Like we have like this weird distinction between like the natural world and like the artificial world, where everything human made is artificial, while like everything not made by humans is natural in a way, which I mean, there's like some truth to that. Like it makes sense in the sense that we need language to, I guess, communicate, and it's a lot easier to just say, hey, this is natural, this is not natural, where that's like, when it's like human made, for example, just to communicate some concepts. But whenever I hear something like that, I always think about like people who talk about like how, especially like in foods you see that like constantly, where it's like, oh, you have like natural food that you find like in, I guess, nature, right? Like natural nature, yeah. And then you have like the artificial food where there's like some sweetener in there or like something man-made, and that's why it's evil and stuff, right? Like that. And I mean, there is a point to that, if you were like thinking about it like very, very basically, because we as humans have developed to deal with the environment, and everything artificial is kind of newer, that our bodies have not gotten used to over like, you know, the course of millions of generations of the evolution that has led us here. In that sense, kind of makes sense, but I still kind of disagree with the statement. There's like so much artificial stuff that we have done, even when we're talking about like natural foods, right? Like we have artificially bred a lot of stuff. Like for example, I recently saw something about potatoes again. And I always forget that they are apparently not from Europe. For some reason, they always seem like such a European thing. But they are technically nightshades that were like crossbred by people in like the Native Americans, basically. And there's also like the thing that it took like quite some time to like breed them to the point that they are now, or like even to an edible state, because before them they were like completely poisonous, which I think is really fascinating. That I guess you don't really think of Native Americans in, and we're talking about like when, you know, about like the mid 1500s or something like that, when I don't really think about like the Native Americans back then as like scientists that did that with intent, but I'm assuming that there was like some intent in there. I guess the curiosity, even though I guess my way of viewing a lot of stuff doesn't really include like this kind of curiosity, right? Like my culture raised me in a very, I guess, European-centric view, in a way. Same with like history, where you don't really hear a lot. Like I'm talking about like history class, not history in like the objective truth kind of thing. But we are not really raised to think about like, I guess, the cultures that didn't survive until now as sophisticated as they were, in a way. Anyway. This was like a really weird ramble, and I feel like I'm rambling way too much here. So I'm just gonna close it and instead talk about the humble brag. I would know a humble brag, right? Like, my humble ranks among the greatest in this universe. Never forget that. Ariana's blog, entry 477. Holy humble brag, Batman. Ooh. I have always known that God maketh the sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. Matthew 5:45, okay. But I must admit, it's one thing to know the words and another to truly understand them. Though I am certain that my faith is true, that does not make me special or exempt me from suffering. I'm just another human being, and God has seen billions of us come and go, and I have to say, this is surprisingly hard to accept. I always thought I was humble, but now I'm realizing that I was very proud of being humble, which is really dumb. I can't believe this. Guess I'm not the first one to do that, huh? Tags, regret, pride, faith, humble brag, apology, Batman. Okay, where's the Batman part from? Okay, first of all, the Bible paragraph. Maketh the sun rise on the evil and the good, and, you know, sendeth the rain on the just and the unjust. I guess there's the idea that God treats everyone equal in this paragraph, I don't know, like I remember the Bible working out quite differently, but like let's just talk about this paragraph. That it doesn't really matter, like we are kind of seen as one and very same in a way. I mean, there's always the thought that like God loves us all, right, like all the believers, so it doesn't really matter whether they're like just or unjust, that they're all like his children or something like that. So I guess this comes from the acceptance that that's just true. I mean, to be fair, I do like that there's like a text about people realize they may have misunderstood parts of their faith, or like their part in it, because it's like something you see a lot, I guess, especially like people raised into different faiths, that they, let's put it like that, they're not necessarily theologically educated in a way. Like I remember, like when I was in school, I had 2 whole years where I had to like first of all, I had like a religious education, right? Like I learned about like the Christian religion. I could have technically switched out of the course very early. I just wasn't aware that I was allowed to do that, basically. That's just like a family thing. But I also had to do like 2 additional years to basically join the church. And I just did that because, I don't know, I've been told to. It wasn't like a very deep thought behind that. And you learn a lot about that stuff. And especially from the perspective of someone who, I guess, wasn't raised in a very religious household. I had like a very different way of looking at the stuff that I've been taught in those classes. That's probably how I would put it. And I guess realizing something when you're like so intertwined with like your beliefs, which may or may not even be like, okay, I want to say like which may or may not be true, but I'm talking about like the idea that your beliefs are probably true, because like what you believe is what you believe. What I'm just saying is that they may not align with like the general consensus in your faith, and you may not know about that. Just because, like, again, you're like very intertwined with like your beliefs, and they may be shaped through like your own understanding and the understanding of like close family, or maybe like your local church or whatever you, I guess wherever you get the chance to really interact with other people of your faith. I feel like this is like very culturally and locally impacted. So yeah. I'm not really sure what I'm getting here. I guess it's just about the realization, yeah, there are like billions of them. If there's a god, then they have also seen like billions of us, assuming that there is one. So I guess it's whatever we believe may not be as unique to a god who has seen so many as we may believe. I guess it's also like the whole thought about like the, I'm gonna call it like main character syndrome, in a way, where I don't think it's like the correct term for what I'm currently thinking of, but that is like kind of the realization that some people have. It's like as if it's like something big, but like some people like properly have this realization that when they are like on the street and they look around, that every single person around them has like their own unique life that is about as unique as yours. They have like their own struggles, they have their own relationships. And there's like so much, I'm gonna call it like information, that you couldn't even process this. This was, especially when I was younger, a lot harder to do. To be fair, I feel like it's quite normal for especially younger people and kids to not have like that awareness on that level. But to me, when I had like a routine in my day basically, and to me, it always felt really alien to meet someone who had like a vastly different routine to me. That's probably a way to put it. Because overall, you have like some conceptions about like what is normal and what's not. And what is normal to you is so vastly different to what is normal to others, probably. I'm not talking about like basic behavior, but like, again, like routines, for example, like what you do, like how much time you invest into hobbies and sports and I don't know, like studying. Like when I was a kid, like I oftentimes forgot my homework. Like genuinely, this was not just a thing where I didn't want to do it, but there were also like a lot of kids in my class who spent like half an hour to an hour on homework every day, And the few times I did it, I oftentimes only did it like 5, because to me it was like very different. Or like having a room to yourself is also like not something necessarily 100% unique. Like I was in the very, I guess, privileged position where I got my own room when I was like, I don't know, at least before I went into elementary school. So like when I was like 4 or 5, I'm gonna say. Before then I shared my room with my older sister, and it was probably just like a logistic thing. It was like easier to have like both kids in like one room, something like that. And that split probably helped because, you know, at some point you grow old enough that you kind of need your own room. But like not everyone had that privilege. A good friend of mine, he shared his room with like 2 older brothers, for example, for quite some time, until they rearranged like a lot of stuff in his house. And then at some point he switched rooms, but like one of his brothers still had to walk through his room whenever whenever he wanted to enter his own room, just because like how the layout was working out. So I guess even the way I viewed privacy was completely different to even people who were relatively close to me. I cannot imagine how different everyone's life is of like people I just meet on the street. I don't even know the names of. Anyway, this is just like a small anecdote here. We've read the text. I wasn't... How do I put it? I feel like there wasn't like too much in there that I wanted to talk about for a long time. But we will probably get more of that in the next area. But before we do that, we obviously have some puzzles to do. But that's going to be happening in the next episode. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be seeing you next time. Till then, have a good one, and bye-bye.